Hey guys, Double Wide 6 here, and I'm working with a bed frame, which is about 1/8 inch gauge steel. And up here in the bench, I have a couple pieces cut, and I'm working on the layout for a sheet metal brake. Obviously, my sheet metal, the angle iron I'm using is only about 1/8 of an inch. This would be for bending fairly thin metal. Just basic sheet metal. I don't think I'd be able to get, maybe at a maximum, maybe 16 gauge steel. I don't do a whole lot of work, but this is just a little project I'm just trying to work on. So anyhow, I have these pieces cut to length, and I'm looking into doing hinges, and it looks like one hinge and then another hinge is gonna leave me with very little area. So I'm thinking I'm gonna cut this hinge in half and weld it on there. So that's kind of the plan. I think I'll cut that, weld that on that side, weld it on this side. The problem is I can't really use this thing in my vise because you'd have to put sheet metal in between these two to bend it, and it's going to hit the vise. So obviously I could raise it up from the vise, but I'm not going to be able to get up that far. I'm already up off the ground about 40 inches. So I'm thinking I might move to this table. So if I secure some angle iron on the table, I could then drop a piece of sheet metal like straight down here. And I'm just kind of troubleshooting and trying to figure out what's going to work. So that's where I'm at with this. So I've put these two pieces back in the vise, and now I have a piece of sheet metal, and I'm rethinking this. The sheet metal is not going to have to go down between these two. It's going to ride right up on top like this, and then there will be another piece of sheet metal that comes across here to line up where the fold's going to be. And then when I pull the handle, this piece here, this front piece, will rotate 90 degrees, and the sheet metal will fold up. So it will work in a vise, so that's the way I'm going to keep it. So it'll be portable and easy to store. So I have the hinge in place. I just want to tack weld this with my wire feed welder. And then I'll probably use my arc welder to finish it up. Still getting used to using this welder, but that looks like I got it tacked, and now I'm just going to tack the other side. Well, I'm just finishing up the hinges using the arc welder. I just feel more comfortable with the arc welder because I'm just not used to that wire welder yet, and I want to make sure these are strong. One side. It's the back side. So at this point, I'm kind of looking into how I'm going to connect it to the vise, and I'm thinking I'm just going to add like a handle on that I can clamp in the vise. So I'm just going to get that square and weld it up. So here's where we're at. I just welded that onto the bottom, so that'll hold it in the vise, and as you can see, this thing moves up and down nice. There will be a handle to give me some leverage that I'll probably put on the end so it won't interfere with the vise down below, or the workbench down below the vise. So that's where I'm at right now. Now I need to start working on some sort of plate that'll give that metal a good crease up top. So right now I'm considering how I want to put this top plate. Like, basically the sheet metal is going to go in here underneath, and then this plate's going to sit on it. Well, if I turn this metal this way, that locks me down to only 90-degree bends. If I need to go further than 90, I wouldn't be able to. So then you can go this way. That would give you another 45 degrees. That'd bring you up to 135, which would be good, but the problem is that's very hard to attach. So because I'm doing such thin sheet metal bending, I don't think I need that thick of a piece of metal. So this stuff's about 1/8 inch. And I'm thinking I'll put it on here like this, and I cut away these corners so that I can tighten up like a nut or whatever I'm going to be using to secure the sheet metal in place. So at this point I haven't really gotten any further. I just have this side clamped in place and this side clamped in place with the vice grip. And I have a vice grip over here for leverage. We're going to try our first bend, and we'll see what we get. And right there's a little less than 90, so we'll just go a hair more, and we'll see what we got. This bend I don't know if you could see that in the camera. I did a bend up top earlier before I even welded the thing together to see how it would turn out. And man, it's actually a really nice looking bend. When I came up, I could feel the metal hitting the top of this. So if I leave that up there like that, I'm only going to be able to get 90-degree bends, which isn't a big deal, but unless I'm doing hems or something, it shouldn't be that much of a problem. So still trying to figure out what I want to do, but it looks like this thing's going to work pretty good. Another idea, you know, I don't really feel like screwing around with a nut and a bolt to adjust this thing, but I think if I leave a nut and bolt, you know, like a lock nut and a bolt here, snug but not really tight, I can slide the metal into this side and then I can clamp the other side. So and then with the gauges of metal, I can adjust that nut or bolt over there a little bit thicker, and then once it's set, usually you do, you know, several folds with metal of the same thickness. So, you know, I wouldn't have to adjust it every time. I'd just have to adjust it for each change of the gauge of metal. So maybe I'll drill that out and get a bolt in that side. So here's where I'm at, guys. I put a bolt right there, and I put a lock nut on the bottom, and I put a washer underneath this metal. What that does is that gives me clearance to slide metal in there. Okay, if I have thicker metal, I can loosen this bolt. Okay, but if I'm working with the same metal, I should be good. And then when the other end gets clamped down here, see, right now this will move real nice left and right, but when the other end gets clamped, it should stay in place tight enough to hold the metal so that it is secure. And I'm just pushing down a little bit with my thumb. So I came up with an idea here for this left hand side. It's actually a cam lock from a bicycle seat. So the way it works is you can just twist this thing and that'll loosen it enough that you can move the metal wherever you need it to go. And then once you get it set where you want it, metal's still loose, you clamp it down. Clamp stays out of the way, which is important, and it's locked in place pretty good. So pretty happy with that. Hopefully it works when we try and bend the metal. Well, I finished up the last of it. I needed to make a handle. I didn't want it to be so long that it would hit the table at all, so I kept it, you know, a good enough length to have leverage. I'm not bending metal, it's that thick. I just used a piece of a lawnmower handle that I had laying around, and this thing, the grip, I had in my weed whacker parts box, all kinds of grips up there from weed whackers, and they fit right on the lawnmower handles. So feels pretty nice, somewhat professional. So I tacked that thing on there, and I think we're about ready to try this thing out. The only thing I noticed is that I got to use this thing left-handed. Not really a big deal, but that's the way I welded it on, so that's the way it is. So here you go, we'll show you how it works. Usually what I do when I bend sheet metal is I make a little indicator on the end with my aviation snips. So we'll just put a couple little marks. This isn't necessarily square, but just have 2 marks. And then what you do is you feed it in here. You can see it sliding in there, and you can use that little lip that you just cut to line it up. So that's locked in there, and now the other side looks good. I'm gonna just tighten up this cam. That looks good, nice and snug. And then I should just be able to bend this thing up just like that, and we'll pop our cam up. I guess I got to be careful not to cut myself there. And you can see that's a nice looking bend. There we go, in focus. Nice corner on it. So I'm pretty happy with that. As I said, you know, it's not meant for heavy metal. It's just a little thing to have around the shop, and I mounted it in a vise so it's portable, easy to store. And it took me about, well, I'm filming it, so that adds a little time, but maybe about 2.5 hours to build it, and looks pretty good, so I'm happy with it. So I've been playing with this thing a little bit. I learned I can also do a hem. You do your first bend, and then when you're done with your first bend, you pull your metal out of there. And so I have a 90-degree bend. I can take that out of the vise, flip it 90 degrees. Nope, that isn't the vise. Flip it 90 degrees like that, and you could take your metal, set it in here like so, and you're gonna have to hold it with your finger to get it started, but you can bend it down like that, and then once you have it bent down like that, you can just grab the handle, keep a little pressure on it, and that'll give you a nice hem. So yeah, hopefully that was in focus. You can see I have a nice hem there, so that's something else you can do with this thing. Here's a little thicker gauge metal. This stuff's about 16 gauge, I'd say. It's steel. So we're going to drop it in there, and we'll see how it does with this. I'm trying to line it right up with that red stripe. This is from my windmill. Got knocked down in Hurricane Sandy, and I would call it unrepairable after that. Alright, here you go, 16 gauge. This would definitely be about the max for this thing. It did it pretty well there. So it does take a little pressure in the handle, but oops, that's about a 90 on it. I wouldn't go any thicker than that, but as you can see, once again, that gives us a nice bend. I'm double wide 6. Let me know what you think. Please give the video a thumb up if you like it. What I found out about YouTube is the more thumbs up you get, the more exposure your video is going to get. So if you like something you see, you should give it the thumbs up and like it, and that's going to help that video be seen. So you can check out my other videos. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and have a good day.